Good morning, everyone. My name is Naomi Makofsky, and I'm on our Global Product Partnerships team at Google, focused on the Google Assistant. So I spend my time thinking about how users are connecting with their devices, how this has changed over time, and how it continues to evolve every single day. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about conversational interfaces. We're going to talk about the future of customer interaction. But we're going to start by going back in time. So in the 1970s, my dad was really excited when he accessed his first computer because for him it meant no more punch cards. The video data entry terminal also opened up a whole new slew of use cases that were more interactive than they had ever been before. And although my dad was very excited in the 70s, this is not, in fact, a photo of my father. Now fast forward to the 80s. Home computing really started to take off. And we were seeing that there was a very friendly introduction to this technology that we would find would change our lives forever. So people were using computers for things like playing games, they were storing receipts, and by the mid-80s, they were even using a word processor. Can you imagine that? Now, this was especially important for young adults as well, as it became almost a necessity next to the joystick and the tape deck in their bedrooms that they also had a computer. And as you can see, while my brother was excited in the 80s, this is also not, in fact, a photo of my brother. Now, kids in the 2000s. Now, this was 15, 20 years of evolution, of technological advancements. Not my kids, but this might be a really familiar view if you look in the backseat of your car, because your kids are probably typing and tapping away. Now, what we're seeing here is that over the next 15 years from those 80s, websites emerged. What were the first websites? They weren't really more than digital brochures. They didn't really take advantage of any of the affordances of the web beyond the fact that there was access to users. Fast forward a few more years, we're talking about mobile. First mobile apps, really just recreations of a website. Nothing too special about those until developers started to take advantage of these mobile first affordances, like persistent identity, like precise location targeting. And now kids today, also not my kids, but kids today are talking, and they're talking a lot. And they're using their voice to get things done, to play music, to play games, to hear stories, to hear jokes. And we're only gonna see these use cases improve. So while we have seen that over the last 40, 50 years, the user model has changed dramatically, we were clicking to get things done, we were tapping to get things done, now we're talking to get things done. But with each new modality, it has not replaced the one that came before it. So just because we are using our voice to do things today doesn't mean we're tapping any less or even that we're clicking any less. What's really happening is, quite literally, we're expanding the pie. We're creating new use cases that could not have existed in years past, and new contexts where we can be productive that we simply couldn't get things done during before. So one example of this is if you think about doing your dishes. Right? So prior to this whole conversational computing era, we'll call it different things like the age of assistants and conversational computing, you'd wash your dishes and it would be however many minutes of time that you really couldn't do anything. So maybe you would put a TV show on, maybe you'd put some music on, but really hope you liked watching those commercials and really hope you liked that song because you weren't gonna be changing it when you were up to your elbows in soap. But now, this isn't idle time. You can use your voice to take action, you can use your voice to change the song, or even to reward yourself with a cup of coffee from Starbucks when you're done actually with your chore. So when we talk about the Google Assistant, we talk a lot about the whole concept of assistance with a lowercase a. And assistance is very simply defined as helping people get things done. It's an old idea with a really big new opportunity because we're able to use digital to help users in ways that we simply couldn't do before. Now, what's really incredible about this is we're at a time where we can actually help users get things done. And we see people turning to their devices every time they want to know something, go somewhere, do something, hear something, so on and so forth, turning to their devices, not just expecting information or answers, but actually help with this task. So they want to get from point A to point B, they want to book that dinner reservation, maybe even they want to get help cleaning their apartment after a mess. And what we're seeing also here is that the buzz around digital assistants has been increasing dramatically. So this recent study by eMarketer said that 87% of B2C marketers, so maybe a lot of you in this room, believe that digital assistants will play a significant role in marketing before 2021. It's in 3 years. Now, we know that the conversational interfaces of 2016 were limited to chatbots, very limited, overhyped, potentially led to some disillusionment. But the conversational interfaces today are actually built on a very strong foundation of assistive AI, and they're really positioned to change our lives and change the ways that we can use them. But before we go on, I just want to talk a little bit about the speed of change we can expect. So when we think about mobile changed our lives in 10 years. 2007, no one really had a smartphone. 2008, it was top executives, tech nerds, maybe some of us in this room, and then it completely exploded. And now we're using these mobile-first technologies and mobile-first use cases, often without even realizing how reliant we are on them. So I know it's early. I've had a couple cups of coffee. I don't know about you guys. But we're just going to do a really quick exercise. Raise your hand and keep your hand up if you used a ride service to get here, like an Uber or Lyft. Okay, keep your hands up. Raise your hand if you posted on Instagram or even checked Instagram today. And keep your hands up if you used a ride service. All right, now raise your hand if you sent a text message. Okay, look around the room. If your hand's not up, you're either texting right now or you're just not listening to me, and that's totally fine because it's just further proving the point that we are actually so reliant on these mobile-first technologies. And conversational interfaces are actually positioned to change our lives in this exact same dramatic way, potentially even faster than mobile changed our lives. And as we embark in this new era of computing, again, mobile's not going anywhere, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the trends that we're seeing, what we've learned along the way, and then what you guys can do to make sure you're capitalizing on this for your business. So the first thing is that we're seeing conversation and interactions are becoming more natural. So we've really moved beyond the keyword when it comes to how users are querying. So gone are the days of saying something like weather 10011, but users are really interacting very naturally, saying things like, hey Google, do I need an umbrella today? And they expect the system to understand what an umbrella means, which is rain, today, which is the date and time, and overall, where they're actually located. Now, secondly, we're seeing that platforms are becoming more mainstream. So there's increased familiarity with these devices, and that's from the youngest members of our households all the way up to the oldest. And I like to take my parents' household, for example. Parents aren't particularly tech savvy, but they like to think they are. But my 66-year-old father cannot fall asleep without the ocean sounds from his Google Home. My mom's thrilled, and I'm slightly terrified and impressed that my parents actually know what these things are. And lastly, it really comes down to our users. Our users are more curious, they're more demanding, they're more impatient than they've ever been before. And they turn to their devices in all of their moments of need every time they want to go somewhere, do something, know something. I'm sure this is very familiar for a lot of you who can't sit saying, remember that TV show, what was it again? You'll probably look it up. And what we're seeing from users is that they expect a lot from their brands. They expect their brand to give them a result that's personal. In fact, personalized results or queries that end in near me or for me have increased over 60% in the last 2 years. They also expect the results to be in real time. They want to know what's open now. They want to know what can be delivered in less than 2 days. They want to know what's around them, what hotel can be booked tonight at a discount. In fact, same-day travel as an entire category has increased over 100% in the last 2 years. But more than just the what and the where, they want it to be everywhere they are. So they want access to their brands in every context they live in, whether that's at home, whether it's on the go, whether it's at work, so on and so forth. So meet the Google Assistant. The Google Assistant is our approach to conversational computing and to this age of digital assistants. It's a conversation between the user and Google that helps them get things done. And the Google Assistant's available on over 500 million devices, and this is in 22 variations of 16 main languages, with more coming throughout the rest of 2018 and beyond. We want to make it as easy as possible for developers to reach their customers and for customers to engage with their favorite brands, no matter where they are and what they're trying to achieve. And by participating in Google's properties, so whether you're already present on search, already present on maps, so on and so forth, you already have access to users on the Google Assistant. But we knew that wasn't really enough. there are a lot of instances where the brand wants to own the message to their user. They want to create that customized conversation, that experience with that user, and have that one-to-one relationship. So in December of 2016, we created Actions on Google, which is our third-party platform to help users connect with their brands and to make sure that brands can build the right experiences for their users. And since December of 2016, we've launched a whole new set of features and capabilities so that these experiences can be richer than they'd ever been before. So we launched transactional capabilities so that users can purchase goods, hire services, book reservations from their favorite brands in the assistant. We launched templates to make it easier than ever for brands to build experiences, or if anyone's interested, you could put together a trivia action or a personality quiz probably on your lunch hour. And we launched Actions for Kids. We launched different discovery mechanisms, including built-in intents and action links, and the list goes on. So as we've learned over the last year and a half of having this platform live and really doing this whole Google Assistant thing, we wanted to share a few things about how you can prepare for this world of conversation. So I'll share 4 major insights that we've learned over that last year and a half. So first and foremost, conversation is not just about information. Users will always want to know where you're located, what your hours are, who you are, but they also want help completing actions, completing tasks in the context with which they're in. Which brings me to the next point, which is that to be assistive, you really need to be everywhere your users are. So it's not just about being in a single device in a single location. We actually see that users are choosing different input methods, so different modalities of interaction based on the environment they're in, the device they're on, the context at hand. So if you think about yourselves for a second, the way that you're interacting with your device might be very different if you're picking your kid up from soccer in a car versus if you're waiting for the subway among a lot of other passengers. So making sure that you are everywhere your users are, really taking advantage of the different interaction methods that are available is also really important to reach your customers in this assistive way. Third, assistance is not just about voice. Voice is absolutely having a moment. It is in the media everywhere. Everyone talks about voice computing. But I like to challenge people and say, isn't it just about conversation? Again, users will choose the input modality that meets the context they're in. So sometimes it is about voice. And when I'm doing the dishes, it's absolutely about voice. But if I'm sitting in a meeting or if I'm sitting in a crowded room, I might not be talking to my device that same way. And I might turn to tapping or typing in order to get those things done. And lastly, interactions have been truly moving beyond the keyword. So this brings us back to this concept of context. Users want to have a natural conversation with their device. They want to feel that the device understands them. So it's less really about the user adapting to technology and more about the technology adapting to that user. All right, so let's get started, right? How many of you have started to build for conversation already? How many of you are thinking about it? Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna give you a few quick tips, just things to start to think about to make this really accessible, to break it down so you can really know how to go back to your companies and talk about how to get started here. So first and foremost, it's about finding the micro moment where you can be assistive. So when you think about how you can engage with your user, you wanna find the moment where they need your help. You're not gonna boil the ocean because that's a huge, huge, huge task. And you probably don't have the resources to completely reconfigure all of the development work you've been doing for your websites and your apps. We know this. We're all operating with fewer resources than we need to get things done. So what's really important is to think about when you want to be there for your user. So if you're a coffee company, it's probably pretty important to be there for your user in the morning. So in the morning, where is the user? Are they at home? Are they on the go? How can you make it as simple as possible for the user to wake up, interact with your brand, and get that cup of coffee? Now, alternatively, if you're a meditation app, maybe you're really useful to the user when they're winding down at home. So what is that context? Maybe they're sitting on their couch, they're talking to their Google Home or their other smart speaker, and it's more of that conversation, it's more of that back and forth than what it would be to simply have an intent and then take that action on it. Secondly, it's important to develop a persona. So what's happening in this era of conversational computing is that brands are actually being assessed as people. Now that's a weird one. I'm gonna actually pause on that one for a second, because it's not a judgment of the voiceover actor you choose for a radio ad or for a commercial. It is your brand being assessed as a person really for the first time. Users already expect reactions from brands and real-time engagement, responses to current events, things of that nature. We see this on social channels today. They want to know who you are. They want to know if you're funny, if you're sensitive, if you're quirky. And this only increases when you're having this one-to-one conversation with the customer directly. So it's important for brands to think about their identity outside of their social presence, their website, their mobile app, and so on. And a couple of ways that you can start to do this is to think about these 4 things. So first, what is your brand about? What are the words that really describe the experience that you're trying to build for? 2, how do these words manifest in the design of your conversation? So is your conversation data rich? Is it proactive? And then what does this mean in terms of attributes? So what's the voice of your brand? If it's data rich and proactive, are you geeky? Are you eager? Are you humorous? Are you really there to help that user? And 4, write it down. What we've often seen is that there is someone in your business who cares about the persona of your brand. They invest all of this time in creating it, and if they're out sick or on vacation, that information is there with them. So it's so important to document this so that the entire company can benefit from it. And the thing to also keep in mind here is that even the slight variation of words can change the overall persona that's attributed to your brand. So think about even something as simple as thank you versus thanks. When that's in part of a conversation, you might think differently about the brand or the person who uses one of those variations versus the other. So think about this as you're thinking about how formal your brand is in this conversation or how casual the conversation should be. And then lastly, it's about optimizing your existing content for the Google Assistant. So look at the structured data markup that's available. Make sure you're taking advantage of all of the different markup opportunities so that your brand can be there and already be accessible to users without too much extra work. And then start to think about how you can build your own experience on actions on Google if you want that customized conversation or that one-to-one interaction with the user. So we have a lot of resources if you want to get started, including a tool called Dialogflow to make it really easy for you to start to build these conversational experiences. We also have Google Plus support, Stack Overflow, and support tickets to help with any technical questions that may arise along the way. And we know that it's really early days, but we also know that there isn't some theoretical possibility that one day conversation will be here because users are already engaging in this manner. So reach out to us, let us know what you want to see, what we can do to help, and we're really excited to see what we can all build together. Thank you.